application of Duke Energy Kentucky for investment of the adjustment of the natural gas rates and approval of new tariffs and all other required approvals, waivers, and relief. I'm Angie Hatton. I'm Chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Joining me today are Commissioner Mary Kurt Regan and Commissioner Andrew Wood. For those in the hearing room, please set your cell phones to silent mode or turn them off. And I don't think we have anybody on by video conferencing right now, although I understand we will later. At this time, let's have entry of appearance of counsel, and also if each party's counsel could identify the witnesses that still remain, starting with the applicant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. I am Rocco D'Ascenzo, Deputy General Counsel for Duke Energy Kentucky. Appearing with me this morning is Larissa Baseman, Sheena McGee, and Valerie Herring from the Taft Law Firm.
And your witnesses that still remain.
Thank you. We have Amy Stiller, President of Duke Energy Kentucky. We have Sarah Lawley, who is the Vice President of Rates, and we have Jay Brown, Doug Heitkamp, Bruce Sailors, and Dan Dane, who will be appearing shortly.
Okay, got it, thanks. And what do you think of?
Good morning, Chair. Angela Bode on behalf of the Attorney General's Office, and due to the proposed settlement, all of our witnesses have been excused from the hearing today.
Okay, and for staff.
Good morning. First off, Whitney Safari, Mariah Hussey, and Wright Williams.
Okay. I've been advised that public notice has been given and filed into the record. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a motion requesting deviation as well.
Which brings me to my next item, outstanding motions. Staff, do you have a recommendation about the motion for deviation?
Yes, staff would recommend granting the motion for deviation.
See, the corrected notice is published in all papers by the October 21st deadline, except for two, and the last two notices ran on the 23rd and 24th. The commission will find that the applicant has substantially complied with the requirements. And grant that motion for deviation. And I understand there are also several motions for confidentiality still pending.
Yes.
Those seem to promptly. All right. Is anyone present in the courtroom that came today for the purpose of giving public comment? I don't see anyone coming forward, and there's no one waiting online. So I'll just note that public comment may always be made by sending written comments by email to psc.comment@ky.gov, and let the record show that the instructions and link to provide public comments have been posted on the website for at least the past day. All right. Now, I have a settlement script. Oh, I should say Commissioner Regan has to slip out. She has another commitment in a little bit, so she hasn't gotten mad and left when she...
I'm on a panel for about 40 minutes, so then I'll be back in. So I apologize.
Well, she'll probably slip out and back in without us stopping. All right, so I have a settlement script to read. I understand that a settlement was reached between Duke, Kentucky and the Attorney General's Office, and the settlement and supporting testimony were filed into the record on October 20, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did both parties sign the agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I'll ask the attorneys who participated or anyone who participated on behalf of an entity in those negotiations and meeting to please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the responses you're about to give here today are the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
In order to ensure that the responses are accurately recorded in the record, anyone who's going to respond negatively, do so loudly or wave your hand, okay? Otherwise, I'm going to hear yes all at once. Okay. all of you, were you aware of and did you have an opportunity to participate in all of the negotiations that resulted in the settlement agreement?
Yes.
Did you voluntarily sign the settlement agreement, and do you fully support each and every provision contained therein?
Yes.
Are there any provisions in the settlement agreement that you do not understand, object to, or take issue with?
No.
Was any consideration of any kind offered or any promises made other than what is expressly set forth in the settlement agreement to induce you to negotiate and sign the settlement agreement?
No.
Are you aware of any reason why the commission should not adopt and approve the settlement agreement in its entirety?
No.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay. Any further matters before we begin presentation of evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Duke Energy Kentucky, our first witness, we would like to call Amy E. Spiller.
Good morning. Good morning. Would you raise your hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Tell us your full name and your business address.
Thank you. Amy Spiller. My business address is 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Spiller.
Good morning, Mr. DiAsenzo.
Would you please state your position with the company for the record?
Certainly, I am the president of Duke Energy Kentucky and Duke Energy Ohio.
And did you cause to file direct testimony and a response to data request in this proceeding?
I did.
And do you have any changes or corrections to either of those?
I do not.
And if you were asked those same questions again this morning, would your answers then be the same?
They would.
And is it your intent that that information be admitted into the record of this proceeding?
It is.
Thank you, Your Honor. The witness is available for cross-examination.
Okay. Ms. Code.
No questions.
And will that be your answer every time today? Okay. If no one objects, I'm not going to ask Ms. Goad every time.
Thank you.
Okay, Steph.
Staff has a few questions. I feel very far from you, so let me know if you cannot hear me.
I will. Thank you.
Do you have a copy of your responses to the Attorney General's first request?
I do not have those in front of me. I have my testimony as well as the stipulation.
Okay,
We'll get that.
sure. While they find that, I'm going to skip down to the next, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm particularly looking for the response to the Attorney General's first request, item 23B, if that's helpful. Okay. My next questions revolve around the stipulation, item number 12. I believe is on page 8.
I do have that reference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you confirm the total of the shareholder funds that would be provided to each of the programs each year?
Certainly. So as a part of the comprehensive settlement in this proceeding, Duke Energy Kentucky committed to contributing an incremental $40,000 per year for 3 years. That will be split equally, so $20,000 per year for 3 years to our Share the Light program as well as our Home Energy Assistance program.
And that's on top of the $50,000 per year that's already provided to each of the programs? Is that $50,000, is that total for the programs, or is that also divided?
So we have under Share the Light, we have an initial contribution, shareholder funds of $25,000 per year. That can then be matched up to $25,000 per year. The matching would be contributions that come in from employees or customers. So that is $50,000 for Share the Light, and then we also have an additional $50,000 for our Home Energy Assistance program.
So would that be a total of $90,000, or would that be a total of $140,000?
So you would have, with the incremental funding, we would have committed $45,000 for Share the Light, which could be increased by an additional matching amount of $25,000. And then in respect of Home Energy Assistance, that would be $70,000.
Thank you.
Sure.
And any money that was contributed by employees or customers is voluntary. It's not automatically taken from customers.
That is correct, Madam Chair. It is voluntary.
I have some general questions about the lead flag study and the high percentage that Duke Kentucky claims is contributable to the late or delinquent payments from customers. This might be a better question for maybe Daniel Dane, but if you need to pass it or respond in the post-hearing data request, that's fine. Can you explain to us why that delay for the late payments, or there's such a delay between when the bills go out and the customers are able to pay and you receive that payment?
I will answer as I am able, but would probably suggest that the question be directed to other witnesses in the proceeding, including Mr. Dane. But we do render a bill. A customer then has a period, typically 21 days, to then make payment. And then we'll go through a cycle again. If they do not pay and late fees are assessed, you would have just that passage of time between which, when we render the initial bill, a late payment may be assessed and then the late payment collected.
Are there any steps that Duke Kentucky is taking in order to lower that lag time?
Duke Energy Kentucky consistently engages with customers through various channels to, in large part, make them aware of financial assistance and other programs that may be available. What we can find is that customers may delay when they are encountering some financial difficulties, and there is a tendency sometimes to resist reaching out to Duke Energy Kentucky. So we are encouraging that outreach and that engagement directly through the company, as well as agency partners and others. We also have implemented an agency portal that can more readily streamline that connectivity between an agency, a customer in need, and the actual financial assistance that may be available. So continuing to utilize technology in ways that can support our customers.
The last question I have is regarding the Attorney General's response to the Attorney General's first request, item 23B. Is that available to you now?
I do have the response.
Okay. In that response, Duke states that there's no allocated costs that have been rejected.
I see this.
Okay. Could you explain whether Duke Kentucky has ever considered implementing a review process that would result in a legitimate review of all of the allocated expenses?
I think as a general proposition, Duke Energy at the enterprise level consistently reviews the allocations. I think that is something that is consistent and ongoing within the organization.
Are you aware of any time that when any Duke subsidiary has rejected a cost allocated on behalf of Duke Kentucky?
I am not aware of that, no.
What would happen if that would occur?
If another affiliate said they would not accept a cost,
Yes.
I think we would have to have a conversation and understand the basis for that rejection and thoroughly evaluate the allocation and, again, substantiate the reason for that rejection.
But there's not like a formal process to discuss and evaluate how the expenses are allocated?
I have not had to avail myself of that process, so I can't admit or deny that there isn't a formalized process.
Okay. Has Duke Kentucky considered creating a formal process for that?
That is something that I'm sure would happen at the enterprise level.
I think that's all the questions staff have.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wood?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. Ms. Miller, thank you for coming today. I was going to ask you a couple of questions about cash management. I'm trying not to put everybody to sleep while I'm doing it. Does Duke Energy charge deposits for their gas customers?
A security deposit, Commissioner?
Correct. When they have gas service established, do they have to put money down with the company before the meter's turned on?
what we would do is assess each customer on an individualized basis, and to the extent commission regulation permits the application of a security deposit and that customer qualifies or would satisfy the criteria for a security deposit, we then have the ability to impose that security deposit. But as a general proposition, no, not every customer is required to pay a security deposit in order to secure service.
Do you know how many customers are, or do you know how much money, how much customer money Duke holds in the form of deposits?
I do not, sir, but that is certainly something we could provide in a post-hearing data request for you.
Could you tell me anything about the cash and working capital policy of Duke Energy? Specifically, that's one of Duke Energy's requests, is for an amount of money to be allocated towards cash and working capital. Do you know how much that request is, and do you know the basis of that request?
I do not have the monetary figure committed to memory, and I would, Commissioner Wood, suggest that Sarah Lawler could more astutely answer those questions for you.
Can you tell me if Duke Energy takes advantage of float when they pay their bills? In other words, do they pay all their bills as soon as they receive the invoice, or do they wait until the last day that it's due, or do they wait till further in the payment cycle before they make those payments?
With respect to our accounts payable processes, there is a period of time, and I believe, sir, it's probably 30 days for that invoice to make its way through a review process and then the payment.
Okay, so float works to the benefit of Duke Energy as well, too, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
Sure. Anyway, I have just a few. Increasingly, people are very concerned about the federal government shutdown, lack of LIHEAP funds that are coming, or not coming, I guess, until something changes. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about your low-income support programs. So Share the Light, customers can get up to $300 in annual bill assistance with the company or customer donations. And then there's the Home Energy Assistance Program that's up to $99 a month, or $400 for crisis aid. Am I understanding those two?
Correct.
So how would a customer apply or qualify for those two, and how do they work together? Like, are there some customers who would qualify for both, or?
So with respect to the promotion of these programs, again, we have that available on our websites. We also work with partner agencies, as I think of the Salvation Army, for example, helps to administer our Share the Light Fund. We have a very strong relationship with the Northern Kentucky Community Action Commission. Again, ensuring that customers are aware of these financial resources and working as we can to partner with agencies. As I talked about as well, we're really proud of the portal, the agency portal that we have created, because it more efficiently allows support agencies to connect those customers in need to these financial assistance measures. And the promotion also is accompanied by, we could include a winter savings or a summer savings email or communication to our residential customers as well as to community leaders. Those winter and summer savings communications, for example, Madam Chair, can talk about ways in which a customer can conserve to use less energy, and certainly we know usage is a determinant of the overall bill. It also makes them aware, again, of these financial assistance programs. So in addition to those financial assistance programs, we have company programs such as budget billing, pick your own due date. We have for our residential customers installment or payment plans. And these are all tools that I think complement those financial assistance measures that give our customers a bit more control over their monthly bills.
So are there some customers who could qualify for both the Share the Light and Home Energy Assistance Program? They're separate applications, right? But are you prohibited from one if you've gotten the other?
Now, we will look at the need of those individual customers, absolutely, Your Honor.
Are you expecting an increase in applications in light of the situation with LIHEAP?
You know, we are, at this moment, we are not anticipating that the LIHEAP funding will be terminated. We continue to advocate at the federal level to ensure that those funds do remain, and continuing to work as hard as we can to promote the availability of those funds. To the extent there is an increase in the application of these programs, we will continue to monitor that.
Are you gearing up or thinking you need extra staff, or that's premature?
It's premature at this point, Madam Chair.
I think first week of November is when people normally find out how much they're going to get for the year from LIHEAP.
I think that's right.
Duke's territory is not as, your customers they're not as many of them below the federal poverty line as some other areas of Kentucky, but do you know what percentage of your customers normally get LIHEAP?
I do not, Your Honor.
Just curious if it's going to be a significant administrative hurdle. How does the energy efficiency upgrade for homes work for the Neighborhood Energy Saver Program? Like, do they apply for money and you help them fund energy upgrades to their homes?
Typically, we do not fund those energy upgrades per se. Some of this could be that home energy audit, where we can come in and look at the integrity of the home and see what provisions may be recommended to make that home more energy efficiency. We also have a partnership with people working cooperatively, a well-established organization in the greater Cincinnati area that can actually come in and make those physical repairs to the homes to make them safer, more secure, and also more efficient.
So you would do the assessment, and then you have partners that would help fund it or do the work?
Correct.
Customer satisfaction monitoring. This is not a time in our history where very many people say nice things about their utility company.
Madam Chair, I would agree with that.
But your experience with these surveys seems to show that your customers aren't quite as mad at you as other utilities customers might be. How does the process work? Is it an email survey? Is it how do you get the responses? And
So we utilize different surveys. So if a natural gas customer, for example, has an experience with us, a service call, we would provide an email survey to them. It could be a telephonic survey to them after that experience to record in real time their interaction with the company. We also will randomly submit surveys to customers just to get their general feedback of their experience with the company. And we're asking them questions around communication, and even what the pain points might be for them. It's very important for us, Your Honor, to gather that information from our customers so that we can continue to improve our interaction with them, to understand the pain points and where we can be better.
do you know what percentage of customers have responded?
I don't have, for every one of our surveys, I don't have the total amount of responses. I will say our customers are pretty free to share their information and willing to share their feedback with us. We solicit that feedback through these formal surveys, and then also, I would say, more organically. For example, I have an advisory council comprised of leaders within our greater Cincinnati area. They could be nonprofits, leaders of local universities, large businesses, governmental participants, and we want to know directly from our customers how we're doing. and where there is opportunity for improvement.
And the advisory council is not something the PSC has ordered you to do.
It has not. It is purely voluntary. But we find that when you ask folks for their opinion, often they are willing to share it.
Notice that as well. Redirect.
No questions, Your Honor.
And since you're the lead witness, generally, you already know, we won't excuse you until the hearing is over.
Oh, that is fine, Your Honor. Thank you.
But you may step down. And counsel, you can call your next witness when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. For our next witness, we would call Sarah Lawler.
Good morning, Ms. Lyle. Good morning. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Counsel. Full name and business address, please.
My name is Sarah Lawler, business address 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Lawler.
Morning.
Would you please state your position with the company for the record?
Yes, Vice President Rates and Regulatory Strategy for Duke Energy Kentucky and Ohio.
And did you cause to file direct testimony, supplemental testimony, and responses to data requests? in
I
this
did,
proceeding?
yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to any of those documents?
I do not.
And if you were asked those questions again here this morning, would your answers then be the same?
Yes, they would.
And is it your intent that that information be admitted into the record of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is available for cross.
Staff?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you have your testimony filed in support of the stipulation with you?
I do, yes.
I'm going to refer to page 4, lines 12 through 13.
Okay.
Can you confirm that the stated ROE of 9.7% would be applicable to the current pending rider PMM true-up case, or only for this stipulation going forward?
So the 9.7 would be applicable to any rider filings that were effective in rates after this stipulation was approved by the commission.
So would not apply to case number 25 to 29.
When we put, so assuming we get an order in this case, say in December of this year, we would adjust those rates that go into effect hopefully in January of 26 and adjust for that. So it would be applicable to that, if that was the chain of events in the timetable.
Thank you for the clarification. Can you confirm that no incentive compensation tied to financial goals were removed as part of the stipulation?
So any financial incentive tied to financial goals was already removed from the request when we filed the application. So there wasn't a need to remove them as part of the stipulation. They were already as filed. Nothing was in there.
Okay. I'm going to flip over to page 18 of your testimony. Oh, we can actually skip this. I'm so sorry. Ms. Filler answered this question for us. Okay. So in terms of the customer charge that was presented in the settlement, can you explain whether that affects any of the other proposed customer classes besides the residential customer class?
It's only for the residential class. So the $20 that we agreed to in the stipulation is just for rate RS. All of the other fixed charges for any of the other classes would be as we filed them.
Okay. Hypothetically speaking, if the commission were to find that the fair, just, and reasonable total revenue requirement to be a decrease to the amount as agreed upon in the settlement, would Duke Kentucky have a preference on whether that reduction should be applied to a specific customer class, or would it be across the board reduction to all customer classes?
I think as a matter of practice, we are fairly agnostic to how the revenue is allocated by the commission. I think to the extent they were to modify the revenue requirement, it would probably make sense to allocate it across all classes, but I think we would defer to what the commission desired in that instance.
Would Duke Kentucky have a preference on whether that reduction should be applied to only the customer charge or only the distribution charge or to both?
I would think we should apply it to both. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I think that we would keep the $20 residential charge, and then the rest would flow through the volumetric rate.
Okay. Can you describe what, if any, effect on the stipulation was intended to have on non-reoccurring charges and the tariff charges proposed?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Can you describe what effect the stipulation was intended to have on the non-reoccurring charges and the tariff changes proposed?
So anything that's not specifically listed out in the stipulation would be as we filed in the application. So those non-recurring charges as filed, any tariff changes as filed, those would be approved as we filed them in the application.
In a post-hearing data request, we are going to ask that Duke Kentucky provides a version of Attachment C of the stipulation agreement in an Excel spreadsheet formatted with all the columns and rows unprotected and fully accessible. And I don't think staff has any questions after that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Lawler, I was asking the previous witness about sort of the cash management strategy or cash and working capital strategy for Duke Energy. And I wanted to ask you sort of the same questions to the extent that you know them. Can you tell me about the cash and working capital request that Duke Energy has made? Are you familiar with that? And I don't mean to ask you something that's not in your wheelhouse, but you were sort of identified maybe as the person to ask about that. And I just wondered if you might be able to discuss. One of the great things about being new on the commission is that everything's new to me, and so I don't have a working knowledge of cash and working capital, especially for such a large company. And just wondered what you might have to say about what the strategy of the company is and what the cash and working capital requirements are, and generally sort of school me about that.
Yeah, I can attempt to. So the cash working capital that we have agreed to in this stipulation is actually a negative, I think approximately $1.3 million. So it's, and it's done by performing this lead lag study that Mr. Dane had done for the company, and he can probably answer some more detailed questions as to the ins and outs of it. But that $1.3 million has the effect of reducing then the rate base that we use to calculate the return that goes into the revenue requirement. So it's a negative. That just goes into the leads and the lags of the different flows of cash from the accounts payable that you were asking Ms. Spiller about to the revenue that we get from customer bills, all kinds of different pieces of the pie, and that cash working capital analysis netted out to actually be a negative $1.3 million in this instance.
So that, to the layman, that would mean that Duke Energy is really good at working their cash accounts and taking advantage of time to pay their bills versus what the customers use to pay Duke Energy.
I think that would be a fair takeaway, yes.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. And I don't have questions.
Okay.
Any redirect, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any reason this witness couldn't be excused? Okay. Thank you. Mr. DeCenzo, you can call your next witness in now.
Good morning, Your Honor. Duke Energy Kentucky calls Dane Dane. He's actually appearing virtually, so we'll see if we can.
Okay. Mr. Dane, are you able to hear us?
Good morning, Madam Chair. The mics are cutting in and out in the hearing room, so I have heard most of this morning, but a couple times it's cut out.
Is
I can
that
hear you now.
for the witness or information?
It appeared to be for all mics
Okay.
in the hearing
I
room.
will move my computer that's between myself and my microphone. That might help some. Is that a little better?
Yep, I can hear you fine now, thank you.
Okay, so if you can't hear someone who's asking you a question, please let us know, and we'll make sure that you're able to fully hear questions before you're required to answer them. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. You may lower your hand and tell us your full name and business address, please.
Sure. My name is Daniel Dane. I'm the president of Concentric Energy Advisors, and my business address is 293 Boston Post Road West in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Okay, thanks. Counsel, you may ask.
Mr. Dane, good morning. Can you please state by whom you're employed and in what position?
And I apologize, counsel, that the microphone didn't appear to be working there.
Can you hear me better now? Mr. Dane, can you hear me now?
I still can't hear that.
Well,
Is red mean on?
red means on in the new courtroom.
Would she be able to use the witness mic?
It's fine with me. It might be a bit awkward, but
I will say it does appear that all the microphones go out at the same time. So I don't know that it's specific to the table there. And now I can hear you.
so you can hear fine when I speak.
Yes.
Okay, maybe try.
For a while there, yeah.
See if yours is working.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear that.
Okay, so let's take a quick break, and we'll see if we can fix this. And if not, we're going to do some awkward witness stand questioning of witnesses. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute.
Thank you. Thank you.
hopefully able to be heard by Mr. Dane now.
Yes, Madam Chair, I can hear you.
Is that better?
That sounds great.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please tell us your full name and your business address.
Daniel Dane. I'm the president of Concentric Energy Advisors. My business address is 293 Boston Post Road West in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Okay. And I know you'd already done that once, but just to make sure. All right, counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Dane. Can you hear me?
Try again.
Good morning, Mr. Dane. Can you hear me?
Yes.
By whom are you employed and in what position?
I'm employed by Concentric Energy Advisors, and I am the president of the firm.
And did you cause to be filed in this proceeding direct, rebuttal, and responses to data requests?
Yes.
And do you have any changes or corrections to any of that information?
No, I don't.
And if I asked you those same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Is it your intent that that information be admitted into the record on behalf of Duke Energy Kentucky?
It is.
This witness is available for questions.
Staff.
Yes, Mr. Dane, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Do you have a copy of your rebuttal testimony in front of you?
I do.
Okay, I'm going to refer to page 16. Can you explain to us
Okay,
how...
I'm there.
Oh, I'm sorry, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain how the prepayments of the Kentucky regulatory fees are not already included in rate base?
Sure, I can explain it, and we may need to take a follow-up request or something to provide the details if they're not already on the record. But there is a schedule that has the prepayments of the company, and on that schedule, those fees are zeroed out in terms of what's applied to rate base.
Has this been the practice of Duke Kentucky in the past, or have the accounting practices changed?
I'm not aware of that.
If we followed up in a post-hearing data request, would you be able to confirm that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to refer to your direct testimony, page 7. We've already discussed this a little bit this morning, but you stated on page 7 that in calculating the revenue lag days, a 34.8 collection lag day was reflected to show from the date the bills were sent to customers until the cash was collected. Can you explain why that collection lag is so high?
Let me start by explaining the calculation of it. So to calculate the collection lag, which, as you said and as I said in my testimony, is the time period between when bills are sent to customers and when the company receives payment from customers, we analyzed accounts receivable of the company, and those are aged according to the amount of time that they've been outstanding. And we took an average measurement over the year of the length of time that there was receivables in the accounts receivables of the company. And as I said in my testimony, that was about 34 days. Your question characterized that as so long. I don't know that I would characterize it that way. It's somewhat over 30 days. It's not the longest I've seen in studies I've done for other utilities across the country. But just to speak generally to what can impact the collections lag or the amount of time it takes customers to pay, it can be myriad factors that affect that, including just general economic conditions and other things that might be impacting the timing over which customers can pay.
Can you speak to what factors Duke Kentucky specifically is seeing impact that day?
I don't really have the full story on that. In terms of my study, we really look at the data and come up with the answer on what that length of time is between when customers are billed and when they're paid, and then line that up in the year with the different parts of our study to come up with the net leads and lags from the study. But I didn't analyze specifically what might be causing that number to be up or down in any direction.
Thank you. I believe that's all the questions staff have for Mr. Dane.
Okay. Commissioner Wood?
Yes. Mr. Dane, a question to the other two witnesses about sort of the, I guess, float, for lack of a better term. And what I'm finding out is that it seems like Duke Energy manages their cash very well. Is that what you're finding according to your lead lag study?
Yes, so just to give a little bit of a background on what the lead lag study captures is it's a study of the amount of funds that the company needs to have in the company to manage day-to-day expenses. And to do that, we look at, as I just discussed with staff, the length of time that it takes customers to pay bills compared to when service is provided. And then we compare that to the length of time that the company takes to pay its expenses. And the net of those two numbers will either be positive or negative. A positive cash working capital requirement would indicate that it takes longer to collect revenues than to pay expenses. And a negative cash working capital requirement would be the opposite. So in my study, we analyzed those revenues and expense leads and lags, and the result that I had was about $34,000 in cash working capital, which is very close to zero in the grand scheme of things. So that suggests able management of the working capital function. As Ms. Lawler said in her testimony, the settlement reflects a negative $1.3 million adjustment to cash working capital, which again is indicative of the company managing that function well, and in the grand scheme of things, with rate base at about, I think, $500 million, that's a very small percentage of the overall number.
Can you tell me whether or not customer deposits play a role in the lead lag study? In other words, the money that some customers have to deposit before they get gas service established?
Sure, they do, and what my study captures is the expense lead on interest on customer deposits, and I think Mr. Brown could probably answer in terms of how the actual deposits themselves were handled from a rate-making perspective, but as a de facto O&M expense, I do study the leads and lags on the interest paid to customers on their deposits, and I'm just looking at my study, and so that was a deduction from the cash working capital requirement in the study, and basically what I was doing there was measuring the time between when that interest is accrued on customer deposits and when it's paid to customers.
Can you tell me how much money the company holds in the form of deposits from customers?
I don't have that, Commissioner. I'd be happy to follow up with a data request if that would be helpful.
I'm just sort of curious. I just didn't know if it was in the hundreds of thousands or millions, and whatever that number is that enough to supply the cash and working capital for the company?
I don't know the quantification of it. Mr. Brown may have that information, and I wouldn't. it would be a portion, certainly, and come into play in terms of the overall working capital requirement. I don't know that I can't say whether it would be sufficient to cover the entirety of it.
Very well. Would you please look at I'm looking at an exhibit that says Duke Energy Kentucky Cash Working Capital Requirement Lead Lag Study, study period ending December 31st, 2023, work paper 1, property taxes. I think it's the very last page in your exhibits.
I'll pull that up. Okay, I'm there.
Okay, I'm looking at the very last page, line 66, and you're referencing a property tax bill from Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. Is there any reason, is that a mistake to include a property tax bill from North Carolina on this lead lag study?
I don't know that it's a mistake. I would want to look into, I understand why you're asking the question, based on that being a North Carolina county. But I would want to double check as to the applicability of that to Kentucky customers.
Very well, and I don't think it's the
Yep.
it's the amount of money. I'm new and just trying to
Sure.
ask questions, and I noticed that and thought that I would ask the question. I'm sure there's a good explanation for it. You may ask.
Thanks. Ms. Sheridan.
I don't think I did.
I just have a question about the year of your study. Was it 2023?
It was.
Was that, I know that gas commodity prices spiked fairly heavily in '23. Was that a representative year? Is it an unusual year compared to '22 and '24? Do you know?
Yep. And just a little bit of background on the year used for the study. So the timing of when we performed the study, aligned with using 2023 data in terms of when we started. 2024 data wasn't available, but understanding that there's some time passing between when the study's performed and when the case is put on and when rates go into effect, we do want to make sure that we're using a representative period of time. And I did confirm that for purposes of the study in terms of understanding what may have changed, particularly for the company in terms of its processes. In terms of gas prices and their levels in 2023, they were elevated compared to recent history. And it's tough with gas prices to say exactly what's representative or not. Following 2023, we looked at some of the data beyond that, and gas prices were actually very low compared to history. So it's not clear whether those would necessarily be more representative of a going forward period. So I gained comfort that we had used an appropriate year, and it wasn't so anonymously skewed by factors such as gas prices. But I will say they were somewhat elevated in the year of the study.
Do you normally see, you do this for a living, you're kind of an expert in these things, or not kind of an expert, you are an expert in these things. Normally when prices spike, do we see an increase in customers' bills and then increased delayed payments?
Certainly the first. So there would be a link between the increase in prices and the increase in bills, and that would depend, of course, on when those increases are passed through. And, it's difficult to say exactly what the effect is on the collections lag, which we were talking about, so the timing between when customers are billed and when they paid. That could have an effect, and if prices are up, you might expect some pushing on that delay to go up, but that can be offset by other factors, and as I described earlier, there are myriad factors that can affect when and how customers pay, and it's difficult to isolate specific drivers one way or the other.
Are there ways to correct for that if you feel like maybe the numbers could be a little anomalous for that year?
And I'm only pausing because we do the study based on a test year concept, so looking at all the ins and outs on a similar basis. So certainly you can study other periods. Not clear whether that would provide a different answer or not, and the study is fairly intensive to put together. So that's I think this came up in the data request. That's based on the timing when we did it. We wouldn't have wanted to rerun the study just based on that, the administrative burden of developing it. But just in general, things that can be done are looking at different periods. I would say for the entire study, just to make sure that the sanctity of the ins and outs holds and that we're still applying the matching principle. Certainly, you can use longer-term averages, things like that. In this case, I didn't feel that was necessary, but those are tools that are available when there are concerns about anomalies.
I remember during COVID, like 2020 and 2021 were just anomalies all the way around for everyone, so.
For sure.
I know people had to find ways to correct for that. Okay, thank you for your responses. Any redirect?
Sure.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Were you able to hear counsel?
I could, yes,
Okay,
thank you.
good. All right. Any reason this witness couldn't be excused?
No.
Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So moving right along. Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. For our next witness, we will call Jefferson J. Brown to stand.
Good morning, Mr. Brown. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury? Please be seated. Tell us your full name and business address, please.
Full name is Jefferson J. Brown. My business address is 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Brown, could you please tell us your full title with the company?
Director of Rates and Regulatory Planning.
Thank you. And Mr. Brown, did you cause testimony and rebuttal testimony and responses to data requests to be filed in this proceeding?
I did.
And do you have any corrections or changes to any of those items?
I do.
Thank you. Could you tell us which document and the page and line number?
In my direct testimony on page 19, on line 22, I state, or lines 21 through 23, I state the company proposes to calculate a return on any incremental capital investments associated with a government mandate at weighted cost of average of capital approved in the company's most recent natural gas base rate case. On line 22, I need to strike a government mandate and replace that with approved pipeline projects.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do you have any other corrections?
I do not.
And with that correction, if you had to file responses and testimony today, would they be the same?
It would.
And is it your intent that, again, with that correction, these documents be admitted into the record in this proceeding on behalf of Duke Energy Kentucky?
Yes.
Thank you. The witness is available for questions.
Staff.
Good morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
I have a few questions about the stipulation. Do you have a copy of that in front of you?
I do not. I do.
I know what that says about your truthfulness. I'm kidding.
I'm going to refer to pages 5 and 6,
Yes.
where it's specifically mentioning the AA replacement program. Are you guys saying AA replacement or AA replacement program?
Either way.
Okay. Based on the stated July 1 true-up filing Can you explain when Duke Kentucky would anticipate that first CPCN filing?
So the first CPCN filing for the Adelaide A program, we still have phase 5 for the AMO7 would be in '26. We would apply for the CPNCN. And so the first CPCN filing would be in the first quarter of '27. And then rates would, we would seek to have rates effective in January of '28.
With that proposed timeline, is it possible that that will result in a year with no projects being approved?
No.
So every year there would be something approved, 26, 27,
Correct.
28, okay. If we're trying to determine a specific month for the CPCN to be filed, is there a month that Duke thinks would be best?
For the CPCN to be approved or applied for?
Filed.
Typically, we strive to file February or March.
For the CPCN. And then for the true-up provision, that would occur on the same lag that the AMO7 is?
Yes, we would file July 1st of that year,
Of the following year?
of the year that the CPCN is filed. So we would file the CPCN, and then we would file the rider PMM filing in July of that year, and seek to have rates in effect in January of the subsequent year.
And then for the true-up, after those rates go into effect,
Yes,
that would be filed?
so the true-up is typically filed when we have actuals, which is basically, it was a 2-year lag after that.
So you're anticipating the same lag that you would have with the AMO7 program?
Correct.
I'm going to switch gears and go to page 7.
I'm there?
Okay. So it states that the rider shall be subject to an annual revenue requirement cap of no more than 5% increase in natural gas revenues per year. And for the purposes of determining that 5% cap, the parties agreed that the natural gas revenues, including base revenues, gas cost revenues, and miscellaneous revenues of $175,700,142. Considering that Duke Kentucky has alleged that it's going to hit its cap in case number 229, what is the advantage to not increasing that cap or adjusting the cap?
So the cap, not adjusting the cap allows us to have some flexibility to be able to have the projects or the CPCN filings be in specific geographic areas. So for example, if some years we need to do more to take advantage of other utility work in the area, it allows us the flexibility to be able to do that work in a manner that would cost less for customers.
On the bottom of page 7 and the top of page 8, the ROE that the parties agreed to for the rider was 9.7%. Can you explain when that would go into effect? Would it be immediately for this rider, or will it only be effective for the rider once the AMO7 project is complete and this AA replacement project begins?
So it would be immediately when rates go into effect because it would apply to both Adelaide A and AMO7 as far as the ROE is concerned.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I believe that is all the questions that staff have.
Okay, Commissioner Wood?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Reagan?
Nope, she asked my question.
Okay. In your testimony, you mentioned an upcoming bid event, I believe, and I didn't write down what page it was. Do you recall that? Has that happened now?
No.
Okay, so we haven't a need to adjust or figure out if it confirmed your expected forecasted increase, or we don't know?
Correct.
That's okay.
Correct.
And then Mr. Futrell in his testimony used a 3% inflation rate, which you disagreed with. What rate did the company use?
So the company did not base it on a general inflation rate. The company based the original budget on tickets and a higher ticket and price. So it was both the amount of work that we're doing and the price. And so that was the basis for the increase. I don't have the specifics on how that was estimated. That was a different witness, but that's how we based the original budget. It wasn't just inflation.
Just using a general inflationary budget isn't accurate.
Right, because they anticipated more work and additional and higher prices. So it was a combination of the two things versus just inflating from a past number based upon, the past work amount.
That's all the questions I have. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Brown, can you tell us, how did the stipulation resolve the issue of loop locates?
It reduced the original budget by $336,000 approximately, subject to check. So we did make an adjustment. The stipulation made an adjustment to the as-filed leak and locate costs. So we did agree to a reduction. The original recommendation from Mr. Futrell was $667,000 approximately, and we agreed to reduce by half of that amount.
So $335,647.
That sounds right.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. No additional questions.
Okay. Ms. Cross? Any reason this witness couldn't be excused? Thank you, sir. Excused. Unless I have a strong need, request for a break, I'm going to move on through. Okay. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. For our next witness, Duke Energy Kentucky, we'll call Douglas Heitkamp to the stand.
Morning, Mr. Heitkamp. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I did.
Thank you. Please be seated and tell us your full name and business address, please.
Hello, my name is Douglas Heitkamp, and my business address is 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio 45202.
Counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Heitkamp.
Good morning.
Could you please state your position at the company for the record?
My title is Manager, Rates and Regulatory Strategy.
And did you cause to file direct testimony in responses to data requests in this proceeding?
I did.
And do you have any changes or corrections to any of those documents?
I do not.
And if I asked you the same questions today, would your responses still be the same?
They would be.
And is it your intent that the documents be submitted as part of the record in this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is ready for questions.
Staff.
Mr. Heitkamp, if you can't hear me, or what the question is better left for Mr. Sailors or Ms. Spiller, please just let me know. I assume you've reviewed the stipulation.
I have.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit about how the cost allocation in the stipulation addresses or impacts the subsidization between the rate classes?
Yeah, so the stipulation did not really change that 50% subsidy reduction that we had put into the original application. So that did not change as part of the stipulation.
Okay. So the fixed charge being decreased still didn't impact the overall allocation subsequent to that?
Between the rate classes?
Yes.
No, it did not.
And then, what parts, from your perspective and your role at Duke, what parts of the stipulation take into account some of the flux in the gas supply prices and market uncertainty?
Could you repeat that?
Well, obviously the stipulation was kind of a compromise. I think Ms. Waller's testimony says as much, correct?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. But obviously the company wants to have protections in the stipulation if, for example, gas prices spike or there's just a bit of volatility in the market. From your perspective, considering you were involved in the cost allocation portion of it, what part of the stipulation most protects Duke?
Well, I'm going to...
Should that occur?
mean, I think the rates as they're designed are fair and accurate, so I think the company's protected in that sense. One of the benefits of the stipulation, I believe, is that the residential customer charge is $20, and that will remain one of the lowest in the state of the large LDCs or gas distribution companies. So I think that's a benefit to customers from this stipulation.
And the fixed customer charge, I know you mentioned it was one of the lowest. I know that is in part due to your customer base and location of their service area. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're able to maintain that lower fixed cost?
I'm trying to think. I mean, we went up in the customer charge by a slight amount, but that question might be a little bit better for Witness Sailors, company Witness Sailors, who does rate design.
I think that's all that staff has for Mr. Heitkamp.
Okay, Mr. Wood.
Chair Hatton, I don't believe I have any questions.
Commissioner Reagan.
Tariff questions, is that for you or that's Mr. Sailors?
That's Witness Sailors.
Okay, thank you.
Any redirect? Any reason this witness couldn't be excused? You're excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And council may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Duke Energy Kentucky calls Mr. Bruce L. Sailors.
Good morning, Mr. Sailors. Do raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury? Please have a seat. And I know you know the drill by now, but tell us your full name and business address.
Bruce Sailors, 139 East 4th Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45202.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Sailors.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full title with the company for the record?
Director, Jurisdictional Rate Administration.
Thank you. And did you cause direct testimony and responses to data requests to be filed in this proceeding?
I did.
And do you have any corrections or changes to any of those materials?
I do not.
And if you were asked the same questions here this morning, would your responses be the same?
They would.
And is it your intent that your testimony and your responses to data requests be admitted into the record of this proceeding on behalf of Duke Energy Kentucky?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Your Honor, the witness is available for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Sailors, do you have your responses to the Attorney General's second request for information in front of you? Specifically, item 9.
Just 1 second, I'm looking for it.
You're fine.
I did.
Okay. In the response to item 9B, I believe that you stated that the curtailment tariff revisions introduce a mechanism whereby the penalties collected from the interruptible customers who exceed the usage limits are then redistributed to all customers in accordance with the gas cost adjustment provisions. Is this a new proposal, or is this how currently Duke Kentucky treats those penalties?
It is, in that specific situation where there's a curtailment. And of course, this isn't a very common situation. Curtailments are emergency situations that don't occur very frequently. But if there's unauthorized usage during a curtailment, there is a part of rate IT that addresses that. And those are considered as being supplied by the company. So the customer used more than they should have. And so in that specific emergency situation, the company looks at that and they say, we're supplying that gas to you. You're not supposed to use it. And that's based on those criteria in the tariff sheet there. So it's not new.
Okay. I was just gonna ask you to just clarify,
Yeah,
so it's not a new
yeah.
proposal.
Correct.
Okay. And then I would like to talk about the soft close option that you all are proposing to eliminate.
Oh, sure.
I know that I think this was discussed a little bit initially at the technical conference, but could you talk a little bit about how Duke Kentucky has treated the seasonal soft close options, like what led to its creation and why the company's now proposing to terminate them?
Best as I recall from history, the seasonal soft close kind of was born out of COVID-19 response, and is basically eliminating the need to visit the customer's house, to seal off the meter, and then also reconnect them when they want to come back on. So it was kind of born out of that time frame. When was COVID? 2020? I think seasonal soft close started in 2021, 2022 area. We're wanting to terminate it now because it's just proving to be a not stellar customer experience. And it all relates back to that fact that a lot of customers, when they go on seasonal soft close, they don't realize that their water heater or their stovetop or their fireplace in their house might use natural gas. And they're expecting to not get a bill for 5 months. And quite often, we start billing them again, say June or July, because they've exceeded the thresholds, and then we send them a bill and start rebilling them. And customers are confused by that, and not exactly satisfied with that experience. So that's the reason we're trying to eliminate it.
So, that was one of my questions. Was I think you mentioned the feedback hasn't been good. Of the customers who have participated in that particular option, has the feedback generally just been negative?
I'm not aware of an actual survey that we've done of those customers specifically. The customers who are brought back on before the season is over are generally dissatisfied. But the customers maybe who are not, I honestly do not know. I assume that they would be satisfied with the service.
So the customers who have participated in this program and they disconnect their gas for the non-heating season, do they also then have to pay a reconnection fee?
In the seasonal soft close program?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
We do not. The seasonal soft close actually eliminates the actual physical disconnect process, and then, of course, there is no fee to pay when you reconnect.
And then I wanted to talk about the changes to the calculation and the processing for fees for the suppliers that fail to comply with the operational flow order. So kind of shifting gears again.
Sure.
Can you describe what an operational flow order is? Like generally?
Oh, I'm sorry, just generally? Yes. It typically happens more on a cold winter day. It doesn't have to be an emergency condition, but there's a heightened sense of we need to balance supply more on that day. So, the gas supply department can issue an operational flow order just telling everyone, hey, you have to balance your supplies. They can direct them to bring it in from the north or the south, just to make sure the system stays balanced and has the proper pressure.
So is there a particular criteria or procedure that goes into issuing the order, or is there more flexibility than that?
I know suppliers are notified in a variety of ways, including the electronic bulletin board, but I do not know the gas supply, with what the definition is of when they issue an operational flow order.
Okay, and would you be able to provide that in a post-hearing PR?
Absolutely.
There is one.
Sure.
So, can you explain a little bit about how under-deliveries and over-deliveries are handled under the current tariff?
Under the current tariff. The current tariff, just 1 second. the current tariff, just need to refresh my memory there. The current tariff basically has wording that says that the customer would pay for the highest cost of gas that the company has. And additional things, the monthly demand charge, and the payment of any pipeline penalties for that.
So I guess I'm gonna ask a two-part question kind of together. But can you give an example of how under deliveries and then the alternative over deliveries affect or impact Duke Kentucky?
Okay. Under deliveries, of course, they're not supplying as much gas as they are supposed to. So that could lead to gas shortage or causes the company to make up the difference, which they, of course, then want to charge the supplier for that. For over deliveries, they're supplying more gas than what they were supposed to, nominated. And, that may also send the system out of balance. Could go into storage, but it's basically could cause pipeline penalties for the company, depending on the volume of gas.
Has that happened like within the last 12 months or 18 months that you're aware of? The penalty part.
I think we actually answered that in Discovery, so let me actually take a look real quick on that and see when the last time that actually occurred. Okay, in Discovery, we did answer that question in staff DR 3.6 and 2.6. And although I have the Discovery printout here, I do not have the attachment printout. So yes, it has occurred. From memory, subject to check, in 2023, there were under deliveries multiple days. And in 2024, there were over deliveries on multiple days.
I didn't recall seeing the actual penalties, but we'll review it, and if we have any further questions, it'll be in a post-hearing DR.
Okay.
And then, can you explain how those under deliveries and over deliveries will be handled under the proposed tariff?
The proposed tariff has a charge of $15 per decatherm added. That's a new charge. And it is the highest cost of gas from the two pipelines that serve Duke Energy Kentucky.
You may not know the answer to this, but does the stipulation, based on Ms. Waller's answer, basically anything in the application that wasn't specifically changed is adopted? So that would apply to the $15 decatherm, correct?
That is my understanding. The one exception, we did add some language to Rider PMM, but other than that, all the other language was accepted.
And then, can you explain a little bit about why you feel like the $15 fee is also necessary to accomplish or reduce the under deliveries and over deliveries?
It simply promotes reliability of the system. It's an industry standard that most distribution companies are using now, and it just eliminates any financial, well, I shouldn't say eliminates it completely. It lends itself to reducing the financial incentive a supplier might have to over or under deliver.
When you say it's an industry standard, do you mean the fee or do you mean the $15 specific fee?
The fee.
Just fee generally?
Yeah, I don't recall it exactly. Like some other Kentucky utilities, some have the $15 fee. I believe one has a $25 fee. So just the fee.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Wood?
Good morning.
Good morning.
In looking through your testimony, I was interested in hearing more about the company's WNA mechanism. I think you were talking about a new weather normalization adjustment rider.
Yes,
Would you mind explaining that to me?
sure. The weather normalization adjustment rider takes into account normal weather, and it adjusts the credit or charge that the customer receives depending on weather conditions in their specific billing cycle.
Okay. And is that, has the company ever utilized this before, or is this a new trend among utilities, or can you tell me sort of the background of the genesis, how this came to be?
Let's see, we proposed it in one of the last one or two rate cases that we had on the gas side. We proposed it, and it was approved. If memory serves, this is in the Kentucky Revised Code, so that it allows for such a mechanism.
Okay, and so this is more like a levelized billing feature. I don't know where I've seen it before, but it seems like I've seen some people have a setup where they just pay the same bill every month. And is that what the company's trying to work towards, just less of a shock in the winter and for gas prices?
It does help that, but it doesn't levelize it, because, when you think of the levelizing, budget billing, you're paying the same amount every month. That's a separate feature. The regular normal weather does have a pattern to it. It's colder in January. So what we're trying to do is just normalize things to a normal weather pattern. So if it's super cold in January, well, the customer's going to get a credit. If it's really warm in January, the customer is going to get an additional charge. So we're just trying to even that pattern to the normal weather conditions. It doesn't actually completely flatten out the customer's bill.
It seems like that should help people's affordability in the wintertime. I mean, I salute the company's efforts to make natural gas more affordable for clients who might be watching every dollar.
It does. It helps reduce the spikes. Now, I should say, that mechanism is just for the base distribution charge. The cost of gas, of course, is not normalized. So if you use a lot of gas and gas prices spike, that charge is still flowed through to the customer.
Okay. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Commissioner Regan couldn't be here for your testimony, and she has asked me to ask a couple of questions, if that's all right. Which tariff changes do you consider to have the most significant impact on customers, and for which classes?
Oh, just in general, Commissioner?
Yes. Yes, the changes from this rate case. So what you were charging before?
Okay. Well, certainly the rate increase impacts customers, certainly. In terms of providing benefits to the customers, it may not sound like it, but really the OFO change in the pricing is all geared towards increasing reliability and the robustness of the system. So that, combined with the curtailment plan being revised to update it since it was very out of date, is probably the most.
Well, and of course, the weather normalization adjustment rider will.
But we had that already. Correct.
Question number 2: which methods or assumptions underlie your load forecasts in rate design, such as weather normalization, growth/decline, energy efficiency in this case?
I'm not sure I have all the details about our load forecast assumptions. I do know they use a 30-year normal for normal weather. But beyond that, really, I would have to ask our load forecasters.
Very well, thank you.
And I don't have questions. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor, thank you.
Any reason this witness couldn't be excused? Thank you, sir, you're excused. And do we have reason to recall Ms. Spiller?
I don't think so. We got a follow-up question that I think we're going to address in the post-hearing data request.
Commissioner Wood, you okay with that too?
Yes.
So is that your case?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. as far as any additional requests for information, staff, could you have those out by Friday the 31st?
Yes.
And if you get those by the 31st, can you respond by November 14th?
So yes, 2 weeks, yes.
Final order is due January 2nd. And if you would like to submit a brief, I'm assuming the Attorney General's office would not be interested in a brief this time.
No.
Okay. If you're interested in a brief, November 21st.
Okay.
And then if any response is needed or required, December 5th. And then, as I said, the final order will be due on January 2nd. We didn't have any exhibits or confidential information to deal with at this time. Anything further from any of the parties? I have enjoyed spending my 53rd birthday with you guys.
Happy birthday.
That's what I wanted for my birthday. I believe it's also Wright's birthday today as well, not his 53rd. All right, if there's nothing further, then we are adjourned.